In this video, we'll look at some of the rounding functions, which, as the name suggests, round off numbers to a certain number of decimal points. So the first one is just the round function, and that's equals round, and it takes a number such as this, and then you tell it how many digits you want to round it off to. So you could say 1, 0, 2, etc. I'll round it off to 1 decimal place, and it should follow the normal rounding rules that you would use in normal math. So this one is taken 0.35 and it's rounded up to 4. And then, of course, I can copy this formula down for all of them. You can see here 0.19 is rounded up to 2, 0.82 is rounded it off to 0.8. Then we've got the RoundDown function, which, as the name suggests, rounds numbers downward regardless of whether they should round up or down. Again, you give it a number and you give it the number of digits that you want. So I'm going to use 1 again, and you can see here, instead of rounding this up normally through 0.35 going up to 2.4, it's simply rounded it down, so to 3, even though that doesn't follow the normal rules. So you'll start to get slightly different answers between round and round down as you go. Then round up, as the name suggests, goes upwards regardless of the normal rules of rounding. And again, we give it a number and a number of digits to round it off to, and it will round up regardless. So we can see on this example, 0.11 should be rounded off to 0.1, but it's rounded upwards, so now it's 0.2. So you start to get a bit of inaccuracy in your rounding, especially if you're using round up and round down. It doesn't necessarily follow the normal rules. Then we've got the int function, which is short for integer, and it rounds a number down to the nearest whole number, or the nearest integer. So we just have equals int and then the number, and you can see it's rounded 35.35 down to 35. And even this one here that was 41.76 is being rounded down to 41. Then we've got the Trunc function, or short for truncates, and that rounds a number by simply removing the decimal or fraction part. So you can tell it the number of digits again, and instead of rounding it off or anything, it simply drops the digits after the number that you specified, in this case 1. So if we look here, 39.19 has just become 39.1, 43.77 has just become 43.7. It simply drops that part of the decimal or of the number and removes it. And that's your rounding functions. So you would use the one that's most appropriate for what you need, but it's important to round at the end of your calculations. Otherwise you start to get inaccuracies, as you've seen some of these numbers become quite different from what they should have been, and then your answers might be different by a couple of points or even a couple of numbers, whole numbers, depending on how much you've rounded them off. So rounding should happen at the end.